19-year-old bride's amazing wedding gift from a millionaire cowboy exposed a shocking town secret. Emily Thompson stood frozen, the opulence of the estate enveloping her like a thick fog. Jake had surprised her with the grand mansion, a symbol of love wrapped in the wealthy Holloway family's history. The grandeur of the place threw her into a whirlwind of emotions. The townsfolk spoke in hushed whispers about this gift, a damning inheritance from a family infamous for their secrets. Did marrying Jake mean stepping foot into a world saturated with complexities far greater than a mere romantic romance? As she explored the mansion, her heart raced with conflicting feelings. Emily had grown up in a family that valued hard work and ethical living, her parents once proud owners of a humble ranch, now lost to time. She felt a weight pressing down on her, a struggle between the awe inspired by the estate's beauty and a nagging worry over the shadows lurking behind its walls. The day she'd said yes to Jake felt light and dreamy, but now every corner of this estate screamed privilege and expectations. While arranging her thoughts, she dusted off a concealed box in the attic, a treasure trove of forgotten letters and artifacts. The aged paper crinkled at her touch, releasing reverberating whispers of past lives. One letter caught her attention. The ink faded, but the words clear. It spoke of betrayals, family feuds, and a connection to her own lineage that sent chills down her spine. Did her ancestors share the stain of scandal that marred the Holloway family name? The implications hinted at dark secrets that threatened to drown her dreams. Before her mind could sift through the chaos, an elderly neighbor confronted her with glares and unfounded accusations of her family's perceived betrayal. They believed the Holloways had once been wronged, an act of division that left scars too tender to touch. Who was right? The voices of morality ricocheted around her. Should she defend Jake and his family, or seek reprisal for her own blood? Her chest felt a tightening, loyalty splintered like glass, reminding her of the complications of love intertwined with history. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Heart pounding, Emily paced through the ornate halls. She caught glimpses of her future with Jake, each one entangled in the whispers of the mansion. Beachside vows, laughter echoing through the garden, bliss, not just for her, but for the entire Holloway legacy. Yet the unease gnawed at her, a constant reminder that big money hid behind a curtain of deceit. Just as she felt ready to confront both her fiancé and the town, the weight of her dilemma hit her full force. Could she marry Jake, a man she adored, while the specter of their family's intertwined past loomed over her? Who was she meant to become, the bride of a wealthy cowboy, or the custodian of her family's values? The question circled her mind relentlessly as the wedding day loomed. She was teetering on the edge, about to plunge into a life that could redefine everything she believed. The wedding bells would soon toll, but for who? Would Emily sacrifice her identity for the fairy tale, or would she dare to unveil the truth in search of something far more meaningful? Emily drew in a deep breath, the scents of polished wood and faded lavender mingling in the air, grounding her momentarily. Each step through the mansion weighed heavy with unspoken expectations and burdens. Her heart thudded with the reality of what was at stake. Would she lose herself in pursuit of this shimmering dream, or unearth who she was meant to be? Determined to craft her own narrative from the tangled threads surrounding her, Emily decided to confront the swirling emotions instead of avoiding them.
The attic felt like a shrine to her choices, old artifacts representing the lives before hers, remnants of battles fought over honor and legacy. She returned to the box, the letters, those handwritten stories of grievances held answers, or at least insights into the people whose shadows danced in the corners. With a resolve burning within her, she scooped a handful of letters into her arms and settled onto an antique chair, springy yet fragile. Each letter revealed fragments of family history that had once been obscured. Mention of empires built on trust, shattered by greed, sent shocks through her. Emily felt an empathy sprouting within her. These were not just stories of betrayal. They were lives marred by misguided choices, just as she now faced. Her fingers traced the wobbly script, the stories morphing from historical grievances into personal reflections. Who were the Holloways in her inheritance? Their feuds mirrored her growing internal struggle. Fight for her own beliefs, or accept the status quo of wealth-fueled expectations. In these letters, she discovered pieces of her lineage, but also pieces of herself. Her ancestors had fought for their values, refusing to allow their voices to be muted. Maybe she could learn from their mistakes. A voice in her mind urged action that surpassed mere compliance. She envisioned the wedding, golden chalices, white satin draping like clouds, but it felt like a performance devoid of authenticity. Could she step into that space wholeheartedly while the history echoed grim reminders of betrayal?
"But the wounds run deeper than either of us realized," Emily interrupted, her voice steadying. "This isn't just about the wedding, it's about our families. They've shaped the very foundation of who we are. Don't you see? If we bury this, we are no better than the ones who came before us." The sunlight streaming through the windows seemed to flicker around them, illuminating the unfurling shadows of unacknowledged history. The moment felt electric. How much longer could they tread carefully around an issue that could sabotage their future together? Jake shifted his gaze to the floor, grappling with his thoughts. "I thought I could just shield you from the past, Emily, but maybe I've done you a disservice." Panic surged within her. "Did you think downplaying our history would make it disappear? We have to face it. We can't just ignore ideologies rooted in divisiveness." An agreement, unspoken yet palpable, hung in the air as they processed the gravity of their task ahead. "Have you looked into those letters?" he finally asked. "I've begun to. The anger and heartbreak in them, they're real. I can't pretend my family didn't suffer. I won't allow our future to be tainted by the sins of our past." Jake's eyes met hers, a spark igniting in the depths of the uncertainty. "Then we should go deeper. We have to learn from those decisions, figure out how to maneuver past their failures." Her heart swelled with a sense of solidarity. "And where do we start?" "First, we must find out the truth, without filters. Let's dig into the family archives, talk to whoever we need to. The more we unravel, the more clarity we'll have moving forward." A chill wrapped around her spine. The prospect of delving into the lives of those who came before her felt both liberating and daunting. Yet beneath the apprehension, a flicker of excitement sprang to life. The journey toward understanding was rife with risk, but it was a risk she was willing to accept, for it meant not just uncovering their family secrets, but defining their own path. "We can't let old rivalries dictate what we can become," she declared, rallying her spirit. As Jake nodded, a newfound commitment solidified between them, empowering their joint venture into the unknown. They both understood choosing to face the truth could redefine everything they believed, not just about their families, but about themselves and the love they dared to build atop the fragile foundation of legacy. With determination surging within her, her mind raced through the possibilities ahead, the tension building as they debated their next steps. Suddenly, a thought struck her, chilling in its clarity. What if there are secrets hidden even from us, secrets so deep they could change everything we thought we knew?
Jake's expression turned grave, his earlier optimism flickering like dying embers. The question hung heavy between them. How far down the rabbit hole were they willing to journey?
Emily stood rooted to the spot, the weight of her own words settling heavily within her. The idea of hidden secrets loomed over them like a storm cloud, ready to unleash chaos. What if our past is more entangled than we imagined, she thought, her mind racing through the possible implications. The complications of unraveling their family's histories were monumental, yet she felt an undeniable urge to press forward. Jake broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. "We could start by visiting the old library. There might be records or documents that could shed light on the Holloway's feud with your family." The practicality of his suggestion ground against the emotional turmoil swirling inside her. "Right," Emily replied, scanning the room as if the answer lay hidden within the walls. "But what if we discover that it's worse than we thought? What if there's something that could change how we see each other, or even ourselves?" "We owe it to ourselves to explore it all," Jake insisted, his eyes determined yet vulnerable. Emily couldn't help but admire his resolve, even as it unnerved her. They were embarking on a journey that could lead them to painful revelations. "I've buried my past for too long, and maybe doing so is easier for you," retorted Emily. The sharpness of her tone surprised even her, but honesty felt essential. "But I refuse to let it continue to dictate my present. I'm not going to keep pretending everything is fine when it's clearly not." Jake's face darkened, but he countered softly, "I'm not pretending. I fear what we might uncover too, but perhaps those fears are what will help us grow." Their steady exchange heightened the tension, stirring questions in her mind about his own understanding of their circumstances. Clenching her fists, Emily felt a sense of urgency to dive deep into the archives. "Let's go now," she said decisively. "We can't afford to delay any longer." Embracing her anxiety, she resolved to transform the choking dread into action. They needed answers, even if those answers led them into turmoil. As they arrived at the library, an air of faded history enveloped them. Dust motes danced in golden beams of light, illuminating the dark corners where secrets lay hidden. The rows of books seemed to whisper possibilities, urging them to make discoveries that would rewrite their narratives. Together, they scoured through outdated records and newspapers, searching for hints of animosities and alliances. Emily's heart raced with each turn of the old pages, the words of past wrongs echoing in her mind. It felt surreal to be piecing it all together, to be at the precipice of uncovering truths her family had consigned to silence. Hours rolled by as they pieced together fragments of history, and Emily's determination shifted from curiosity to an intense need for resolution. "What if our love can bridge this divide?"
she thought, glancing at Jake's concentration as he immersed himself in a faded manifesto of long-held grudges. She saw a certain resolve in him, a commitment to face the trials ahead side by side. But as the evening sunlight began to dim, a weight settled upon her chest. They had unearthed names intertwined with resentment, words that reflected division rather than unity. Emily felt her pulse quicken when they stumbled upon an entry that mentioned a decade-long hushed rivalry rooted in betrayal. Her hands trembled slightly as she read the words aloud, her voice echoing in the quiet library. The Holloways were accused of sabotaging a crucial agreement that could have brought our families together. The realization hit her hard, tightening around her like a vice. This feud wasn't just a historical footnote, it was a deliberate thrust into the heart of her present. "What does this mean for us?" Jake queried, his expression a mixture of hope and dread. The shadows around them seemed to deepen, the history they sought to confront suddenly feeling more imposing. "And what if the betrayals are not just stories from the past?" Emily whispered, the chilling thought causing a shiver to run down her spine. As the reality of what lay ahead crystallized, she grappled with the fear that perhaps their own history was not as different from their families as they hoped. Suddenly, Emily realized they weren't merely facing the ghosts of their parents, but perhaps something more sinister within themselves. The adventure they had embarked on was not just about understanding legacy, but also confronting their own identities within it. That familiar intensity washed over her once more. "We need to dive deeper," she insisted. "This is only the beginning, and I won't stop until we find the truth." Jake nodded, determination flickering in his eyes as he rallied alongside her. But as they prepared to delve further, one question loomed larger than the rest. Were they truly ready to confront the full scale of what their families had done, and could their bond withstand the revelation? The flickering fluorescent lights of the library felt oppressive, casting a pale glow over the faded documents that Emily and Jake sifted through like leaves in the wind. The further they delved, the more their collective resolve shimmered against an undercurrent of anxiety. Emily's eyes darted over the lines of text, consumed by a need to uncover the truth, a truth that could shatter their fragile understanding of themselves and each other. "Can we separate what's the past from who we are?" she wondered aloud, her voice barely a whisper. The room swelled with the weight of old grievances, and the air tingled with an electric intensity. They had come seeking answers. Now they felt they were chasing shadows. Jake looked up from a stack of brittle newspapers, his brow furrowed with concentration. "Maybe we start by connecting the dots between our families and understanding the context."
"These aren't just names. They represent real pain." His words hung in the air, a reminder of the emotional battlefield they were entering. "Pain we might inherit," Emily said sharply, a pang of fear tightening in her chest. "What if we find out that we, too, are perpetuating this legacy?" She shivered at the thought of walking in the same footsteps that had led her and Jake to this moment. The idea of being part of a bitter family feud was gripping and alien to her sense of self. Determined to piece together a narrative that empowered her rather than shackled her, Emily decided to shift her approach. She sought out a ledger that bore traces of handwritten notes, perhaps clues scripted by someone who had witnessed the unfolding of the rivalry firsthand. As she flipped through the pages, her heart quickened, but the tone shifted when reality began to dawn. Suddenly, a name stopped her cold. A great-aunt, long forgotten, a woman who had fought in the shadows of the feud, one whose story had been deliberately erased from family memory. Could this woman hold the key to their identity? "Jake, look!" she exclaimed, flipping the ledger around toward him. "This could be the thread that connects us to the past in a different way." As Jake leaned closer, studying the name, Emily felt the cold tendrils of doubt creeping up her spine. But why would our families try to hide this? What can we truly learn from a legacy marred by conflict? "I think," Jake began, voice steady but soft, "that understanding is more powerful than fear. What if embracing these truths allows us to redefine our family's narratives? It could be painful, but perhaps truth makes us stronger." His conviction ignited something within her, a flicker of strength that she could hold on to. The tension in the air thickened as they grappled with the gravity of their findings. Emily felt herself leaning into a new conviction. We're not just uncovering family secrets, we are stepping into our own stories, reshaping what we want our legacies to be. With renewed determination, they worked late into the night, their quest morphing from a search for information to a mission of personal liberation. The more they unearthed, the more Emily embraced her own narrative, one not dictated by family feuds, but instead crafted from her choices and values. But just as dawn broke and a sense of clarity washed over them, the library door creaked open, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. Emily's heart sank. Who could be intruding on their private quest? Jake's eyes narrowed, scanning the newcomer with suspicion. "Do you think they know what we're after?" he asked,
tension crackling between them. "We won't be intimidated," Emily murmured, steeling her resolve. "This is our journey now." As the figure stepped into the light, revealing familiar features, an unexpected turn of their personal quest loomed large. Could this be an ally, or yet another obstacle in their path?
Jake's posture stiffened as the figure moved closer, offering a face that was somehow both comforting and unsettling. Emily's mind raced, skirting between the recognition of family resemblance and the sense that this was an intrusion into their already tumultuous search. Could it truly be her estranged relative, the very connection she had long wished to sever? "Auntie Sarah?" Emily faltered. The woman's lips curved into a smile as a rush of memories spilled through Emily's thoughts, some warm, some bitter. Yet, standing here, a long-lost family member was more than just a ghost from her past. She was a potential gatekeeper to understanding their family history. "Yes, dear, it's me," Sarah replied, her voice laced with an unexpected tenderness. "I couldn't let you dig deeper without offering a warning." Emily's response wavered. Had Sarah come to shield her from the truth, or to further tether her to the family's painful past? The decision to pursue clarity suddenly felt precarious. Would this revelation be a stepping stone or a pitfall? "Why now?" Jake challenged. His distrust sent a shiver down Emily's spine, but it also ignited a flicker of hope within her. This was precisely the confrontation she had feared, yet desired, in her soul. "You've been absent for years. Why show up now?" "Because the shadows of the past are more powerful than most realize. There are family secrets that could either liberate or trap you. You must understand what these bonds really mean before it's too late." Emily struggled with conflicting emotions. Was "too late" a reference to their quest, or did it signal a warning about becoming ensnared in a legacy they sought to escape? With each passing second, the weight of Sarah's words pressed against them like the cold atmosphere of the library, drawing them deeper into uncertain territories. "Then tell us," Emily replied, her voice firm. "If you know something that could impact what we've uncovered, we need to hear it." Her heart raced, ready to embrace knowledge that might illuminate their path, despite the accompanying fear it could evoke. Sarah's expression changed, shadows gathering in her eyes. "Trust doesn't come easy when history looms over your shoulder, but sometimes understanding your lineage can feel more like a burden than a blessing. What you seek could redefine not just you, but your generation's legacy." With this veiled caution, 1,000 questions flooded Emily's mind. Had her family betrayed its own one? Was there a depth to their enmity that they hadn't yet grasped? Every instinct warned her that unlocking these truths could take her deeper into the darkness they had desperately sought to escape. As her thoughts tangled within this swirling uncertainty, she felt Jake's fingers brush against her arm. He was grounding her, urging her to confront what lay ahead, even though fear clung to their shoulders like an unwelcome cloak.
Before she could voice her next thought, Sarah continued, "You'll need to visit the old farmhouse. There you'll find answers not buried in dusty tomes, but in the very walls that witness the choices our ancestors made. To navigate your future, you must first understand what they did to shape theirs." The profound gravity of Sarah's directive hung in the air, reverberating like the tolling of a bell summoning them to action. Emily exchanged a glance with Jake, a silent understanding passing between them. This was the confrontation they had anticipated, the truth they were unearthing, but it bore an urgency that twisted at their resolve. "Yes," Emily said, feeling the spark of determination flaring anew within her. "We'll uncover the truth, whatever that may be." But as they turned to leave, Sarah called out softly, "Just remember, unearthing the past has its costs."
Haunted by uncertainty, but ready to march forward, Emily felt a deepening resolve harden within her chest. They were bound to face inevitable challenges that lay ahead, but more than ever, she was ready to claim her narrative, despite the chaos that awaited them. As they stepped outside, the crisp morning air invigorating her senses, Emily's mind raced with the implications of Sarah's words. What awaited them at the farmhouse? What bonds would they break, and what footsteps would they choose to follow? The next leap in their journey nagged at her consciousness, demanding urgency and reflection. A confrontation loomed, one that would ultimately challenge how profoundly they understood themselves and their intertwined fates. The drive to the farmhouse felt interminable, each mile stretching Emily's anticipation into thin threads of apprehension. Jake's steady grip on the steering wheel mirrored her urgency, keeping their focus ahead, but inside, tension twisted like coiled spring. Every turn seemed to echo Sarah's cryptic warning, the weight of buried family history, both a burden and a beacon illuminating their path. With each bump in the road, Emily mentally reviewed their objectives, determined to sift through whatever secrets lay behind the farmhouse walls. Had family loyalty been a mask concealing betrayal? What kind of darkness had her ancestors harbored? Could the truth, whatever it was, irrevocably alter her future? As they pulled into the driveway, the old farmhouse loomed before them, its weathered facade deceptively inviting. Darkened windows seemed to watch their approach, and the silence felt almost charged, as if the house itself were holding its breath. Emily's grasp on the door handle tightened, a mix of dread and excitement curling in her stomach. This was it, the doorway to her family's past. Emily stepped first, Jake following closely, his expression a complex montage of concern and support. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, his voice low, echoing her own internal struggle. "I have to be," Emily declared, already crossing the threshold. A chill washed over her as they entered, amplified by the dust motes swirling lazily in the waning sunlight. Shadows danced on the walls, creating impossible shapes, remnants of a life once lived. "Let's find something, anything that can explain what really happened here," she suggested, the determination bullying her initial hesitation. They moved through the front room, the air thick with a sense of abandonment. Old photographs adorned the walls, faces staring back with a mix of pride and sorrow. Emily studied them, trying to connect the visible lineage with the evasive stories steeped in secrecy. What had these people truly endured? How did their choices shape the very essence of who she was? "Look at this!" Jake's voice cut through her reverie as he held up a framed newspaper clipping that had fallen from the shelf. It detailed a scandal, a family feud long buried, with names she recognized from her childhood. Anger surged through her as she read the blaring headline about accusations and lawsuits that had nearly torn the family apart. "Why didn't I know about any of this? All this time I thought we were just normal." The truth felt like a sharp blade, slicing at her perceptions, demanding a complete overhaul of the woman she thought she was. "It's as if they wanted to hide their shortcomings," Jake reflected, as the gears in his mind turned as he processed the depth of what they'd uncovered. But revealing this might also expose hidden strengths you didn't realize you had. Was that the hope she needed? Emily's emotions churned. The weight of heritage felt heavier, yet liberating. Through the pain of revelation, she glimpsed a chance for growth. If I can face this, then maybe I can redefine what it means to be part of this family. Her resolve strengthened. She turned toward the back of the house, following a narrow hallway lined with peeling wallpaper. A small door caught her eye, its surface rough and weathered, as if tightly holding its stories inside. Jake paused behind her, sensing the pivot of her intention. "Are you ready for what could be behind there?" he asked, his tone cautionary yet supportive. With a firm nod, she reached for the doorknob. The cold metal felt foreign, sending a pulse through her, a signal of the uncertainty ahead. She paused, breath caught in her chest, the final moment stretching out before her. What awaited beyond might unravel everything she knew, but not knowing had become a more visceral prison than confronting whatever awaited her. As she twisted the doorknob, the door creaked open, revealing a staircase spiraling down into darkness below. An instinct kicked in, a flash of courage surged, daring her to descend into the unknown. Maybe this was where she would find not just ghosts of her ancestors, but the very fabric of her identity, twisted and worn, but ripe for reclaiming. The moment had come to face not just the history of her family, but her own understanding of self.
With Jake steadying her resolve, she stepped into the abyss, ready to confront the shadows that lingered there. But as the darkness enveloped her, a sound echoed from below, the soft whisper of an unfamiliar voice pulling her deeper into the unknown. Was she truly ready for the unexpected truths that awaited? Descending the spiraling staircase, Emily felt the very air change around her, thickening with anticipation and dread. The soft whisper echoed again, a peculiar sound that seemed to beckon, luring her deeper into the inky blackness. Lightless and still, the passage appeared endless, each step down fraught with the weight of unanswered questions. She could almost feel the walls pressing in, as if the house was intent on holding her back from the truth. Jake followed close behind, the faint light from his phone casting wavering shadows that danced ominously along the curved walls. She could sense his apprehension, the tension crackled, yet his steadfast presence offered her a sliver of comfort. Would his support hold once they confronted whatever awaited? "Maybe we should turn back," he said hesitantly, and for a fleeting moment doubt crept into Emily's mind. What if they uncovered something terrible? The possibility chilled her, yet the urge to press on remained potent, an insistent flame pushing her forward. "No," she replied, her voice steadier than the turmoil within. "I need to know. We both do." Jake nodded, albeit reluctantly, and they continued. The air thickened, clinging to her skin like a damp shroud. Finally, they reached the bottom. A small, dim room stretched out before them, cloaked in darkness and brimming with secrets. Emily squinted as she adjusted her eyes, glimpsing barely visible shapes, a dusty table, stacks of crumbling papers. Her heart raced, not only with fear, but with an inexplicable urge to dig deeper, confront whatever lay hidden. Something was calling to her, an urge she couldn't ignore. She stepped further into the room, her hand brushing against a pile of old letters. The moment her fingers made contact, a surge of energy coursed through her. "Do you feel that?" she asked. Jake moved beside her, his brow furrowed in concern. "Feel what?" "I don't know. Something. It feels connected." She carefully began to sift through the letters. Each envelope bore her family name, each one potentially a portal into a past she had never known. The scratches of ink felt alive in her hands, a whisper of long-silenced voices eager to be heard. As she opened one, the faint scent of aged paper flooded her senses. The words poured forth, revealing a narrative of despair masked by familial obligation. The sender, her great-grandmother, wrote of her struggles against the weight of family pressures, her dreams stifled by expectations. An unexpected ally emerged from the rubble of secrets, a betrayal that had caused a rift in the family she never imagined. This isn't just about past mistakes, Emily realized, her mind racing.
It's a reminder of the complexities of family, who I am, who I might still become. Unearthing these letters was no simple task. She faced the anguish of history head-on. Each revelation demanded an emotional reckoning, and as the past began to unspool from the confines of the envelopes, Emily's intuition sharpened. She could confront the pain. She had to. Their legacy was not merely one of shame, but resilience in the face of adversity. "Emily, we should get this upstairs," Jake suggested. "You might want to discuss—" "No, I need to process this first. I need to understand for myself." The firmness of her assertions surprised even her. Stepping further from her hesitation, she grasped the power of the truth. With each letter, she collected fragments of not only her family's history, but also pieces of herself she had yet to discover. The contours of her identity were beginning to take shape, forged in the crucible of hard truths. This journey was about more than the past. It was about reshaping her future. At that moment, she heard it again, the soft whisper, now more insistent. A chill raced down her spine. It felt almost like a presence urging her to delve deeper. Resolute, she turned to Jake, who was observing her with a mix of admiration and unease. "Let's keep going," she decided, her voice brimming with newfound determination. "There's more to uncover here, and I need to know everything. I refuse to let the past control me any longer." Together, they pushed forward into the dim light, the mysteries of the farmhouse unfolding, as did Emily, the burden of the past slowly transforming into the fuel for her awakening. But as they ventured deeper, a floorboard creaked ominously beneath their feet, and the temperature plummeted. Was it merely the chill of the basement, or did the house itself hold a darker secret waiting to be unveiled? Emily's heart pounded in her ears as they pushed deeper into the unfathomable dark. The cold intensified, seeping into her bones and urging her instincts to scream caution. Yet with every step farther into the shadows, she felt an exhilarating rush. This was no longer just a physical descent, but a psychological plunge into the essence of her identity. Jake paused, gripping her elbow with an anxious glance. "Emily, what if we find something we can't unsee?" His hesitation held a hint of fear, a reluctance that echoed within her, but she was no longer willing to remain shackled by doubts. "I won't be afraid," she replied, her voice low but resolute. "Not anymore." With granite-like determination, she nestled into the silence. The whisper, clearer now, entwined with her resolve, as if enticing her to uncover the artistry hidden beneath the layers of guilt and family reputations. They edged into another chamber, a small room with shelves lining the walls, sagging under the weight of forgotten artifacts and trinkets that had lost their place in time.
Emily's fingers brushed over a cracked leather-bound book atop a dusty shelf. It felt heavy, not in weight, but in the sense of prophecy, a vessel of hidden lore. She opened it cautiously, and a wave of dust motes danced in the weak beam of light from Jake's phone. As she scanned the ornate handwriting, nestled within were more letters, each unveiling personal histories, grief and pain spilling onto the yellowed pages. She gasped as she read a passage detailing her great-grandmother's dreams of venturing beyond the suffocating confines of their town. This made Emily halt. What would it have meant for her family if her great-grandmother had followed those dreams? Would she have disrupted the legacy of constriction that plagued their bloodline? It was a question that gnawed at her. She felt the warmth of clarity wash over her, illuminating her own situation. In an instant, she envisioned herself breaking free from the invisible chains of expectation that bound her. Not only did she have a path towards self-discovery and autonomy, but she could also choose to cultivate her own life devoid of imposed limitations. "Emily," said Jake, his voice low, nudging her back to the present. "No," she said, surprising herself with the confidence she felt.
Not until I understand the extent of their sacrifices and my own. As she continued flipping through the faded pages, horror struck her. The letters grew darker, revealing twisted secrets of betrayals, unexplained absences, and muted tragedies. Each word felt like a punch, a raw, relentless assault on the naivety that so often cloaked familial histories. The deeper she read, the more she understood the intricacies of pain and survival woven into her lineage. They weren't just tales of woe, they were instructional mirrors of resilience that she could apply to her own narrative. "What's happening to you?" Jake whispered, concern stitched into his brow as he took a cautious step back. "I'm learning," Emily articulated, meeting his gaze head-on. "I'm breaking out of the misconceptions of what I thought I knew about myself. These stories aren't mere relics, they are lessons in courage." Her fingers trembled, yet not from fear, but from a dawning recognition of her potential power. She could harness the lessons that had lain buried for far too long. As the awareness blossomed, she felt an unfamiliar surge of confidence rise within her. Yet behind that realization lurked a growing consequence. The chilling whisper beckoned more urgently now, almost demanding her attention, vibrating with a sinister undertone that interwove with her newfound resolve. It was as if the house itself was aware, compelling her to make a choice that could redefine not just her past, but her future. Before she could decide, an intense noise erupted, echoing through the damp air, a loud crash from above, shaking the very foundations of the house. What was that?
Jake turned, eyes wide with alarm, tension creeping back into his voice. Emily felt a mixture of dread and determination. This inconvenient twist tested her resilience yet again. "Whatever it is, we face it together," she responded, her voice steady. "This is only the beginning." As they propelled back toward the staircase, she now viewed the old farmhouse not just as a repository of secrets, but as a crucible for her transformation. The deeper they delved, the more she understood that the past was crafting her future, whether she was ready or not. Yet, in the storm of her awakening, the chilling presence lingered, as if telling her that the real truth would soon come crashing down with the weight of 1,000 unleashed voices. Realization washed over her. There was more at stake than just uncovering secrets. The house was harboring something undeniably dark, and they were being drawn toward it. What awaited them above? With a quick resolution, she started moving again, aware that the next steps could shake them to their very core. The second Emily emerged from the depths of the farmhouse, the sunlight struck her like a clarion call. The echoes of the past lingered in her mind, clamoring for recognition. They were woven intricately into the fabric of her identity. Each story unearthed had forged a deeper understanding of herself, despite the chilling undertones that still reverberated from the secrets she had uncovered. Jake rushed to her side, his expression a mix of concern and admiration. "Are you okay?" he asked, assessing her intently. There was not a hint of fear about the noise that had disrupted their search. Instead, his focus remained solely on Emily, as if he were attempting to gauge the transformative process at play within her. "I've never felt more alive," she breathed as clarity washed over her. "Jake, this has all been a profound awakening. The whispers of my ancestors, each letter, each revelation, it's changing everything I thought I understood about family, legacy, and my own potential." The sunlight seemed to amplify her newfound conviction. She stepped outside and felt the weight of the world grow lighter. No longer encumbered by the burdens of the past, she was ready to create a narrative defined by her choices, not those of her history. The tangled threads of betrayal and sacrifice had woven a complex tapestry, teaching her that fulfillment could blossom even from chaos. In the back of her mind, the tension from the house, the earlier crashing noise, felt like a haunting reminder of unresolved issues.
She turned to Jake, framing her next words carefully, both as a testament to her growth and a commitment to shape her future. We need to confront what it was that made that sound. If we ignore it, those shadows will continue looming, threatening to rewrite our story. We must create closure. Jake regarded her with newfound respect and determination. "You're right. Let's face it together."
The solid affirmation from him felt like an unwavering anchor, enhancing her confidence. As they stepped back inside the house, the air felt different. It was thick with history, but laced with palpable eagerness. Emily could sense that the energy had shifted. The whispers grew quieter, as if waiting for the penultimate moment to reveal the final chapter. Emily led the way, not into the familiar rooms of the farmhouse, but toward the source of the disturbance, the place where secrets threatened to merge with reality. Ascending the staircase with purpose, Emily realized her heart wasn't racing from fear, but anticipation. The goal was not simply to unveil darkness, but to seize the light that lived within the truths they had found. As they reached the top, the sight before them sent a jolt through her veins. A painting, once perfectly hung, had crashed to the ground, revealing a hidden compartment behind it. This could be the heart of the mystery, the pivotal point that could redefine everything. "Look!" she exclaimed, unable to suppress her excitement as she stepped forward. Jake joined her, their fingers brushing against the edge of the concealed space, escalating the tension between them and the uncertain past contained within. With a steadying breath, Emily slowly opened the compartment, revealing a thin, worn journal bound in leather and faded with age. This was the key. As she lifted it gently into the light, she felt her ancestors' desires wrapping around her like a protective shield. This could hold everything, the origins of the feud, the key to breaking the cycle. Sliding her fingers along the spine, Emily flipped the journal open, her breath catching as she read the familiar handwriting. This was her great-grandmother's voice, echoing through time, filled with aspirations and regrets, contradictions and hope. Reading aloud, Emily felt every word penetrate deep into her core. "We have endured generations of shame, burdens disguised as expectations. Yet among us is a spark that refuses to be extinguished. We must reject the shackles of sorrow and embrace the power of love and ambition." With each line, Emily's heart swelled. These courageous proclamations illuminated her path like a lighthouse on a stormy night. They expanded her view of love, family, and most importantly, herself. She was no longer preparing to accept a future laid out by others. She would forge her path boldly. As the lines from the journal resonated with her soul, she dared to dream, not just of marrying Jake, but of building their lives on the foundation of authenticity, redefining their legacy based on truth, love, and mutual respect. When she finished reading, Emily turned to Jake, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "This is it, the breakthrough we needed." Her voice carried the weight of revelation, the thrill of possibilities igniting their ambitions. Jake, staring at the journal in awe, nodded. "We have real power here.
We can redefine not just our story, but the future of our families, breaking the chains that bind them too." Determined, they left the farmhouse with the journal cradled in Emily's arms. She felt its significance manifest not merely as a recount of history, but as a guide for their futures, an emblem of resilient hope. With the oppressive weight of the past cast aside, Emily stood upright, her confidence solidified. The journey had catalyzed her transformation from an uncertain bride lost amidst whispered secrets to a woman ready to claim her narrative. No longer simply the daughter of her parents or a reflection of her ancestral lineage, she was becoming a force in and of herself.
As they drove away from the farmhouse, the landscape of her life seemed brighter. They would share the revelations with their families, breaking through the barriers once shrouded in silence. It was a new dawn, ripe with possibilities and sexier than the shadows that came before. Neither the weight of legacy nor the burdens of history would dictate her future. Emily was ready to embrace the future as herself, authentic, unyielding, and courageous. With newfound purpose, she gripped Jake's hand tightly, feeling a thrilling connection, knowing that together they would forge ahead into the unknown, unafraid of confronting what lay beyond the horizon. It was time to rewrite their story, and she would do just that, starting today. You need to subscribe now to our channel to support emotional journeys just like this one. This is the moment to show your support for more compelling stories about breaking free from the past. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the word about personal transformative tales. Comment below with your reactions and theories about how Emily's journey will inspire others. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this conclusion of self-discovery.